You know, the greatest strategic failure in branding is what's called the safety trap. It's this belief that if you just follow all the industry standards, you're reducing your risk. But it completely ignores a simple neurological fact. Sameness makes you invisible. So what if all those things you're doing to look professional, to look trustworthy, what if they're the very things causing your customers to just filter you out? Today, we are going to unpack a really powerful concept, differentiation DNA. We're going to look at the architecture of building a brand that is structurally, fundamentally unique, and how you can escape that competitive invisibility that just plagues so many businesses.
This quote really gets to the heart of the paradox we're tackling today. We're all taught to follow best practices, right? To see what the market leader is doing and just emulate them. It feels like the safe, prudent bet. But neuroscience tells us the complete opposite. See, the human brain is an efficiency machine. It's been honed over millennia to conserve energy. And one of the biggest ways it does that is by filtering out the familiar. It's literally programmed to ignore what's predictable so it can save its precious cognitive resources for what's new, what's different, what might be an opportunity or a threat. So when your brand looks, sounds, and acts like everyone else, you're not just failing to stand out. You are actively training your customer's brain to file you away as unimportant background noise.
And this leads us to a pretty unsettling question, doesn't it? What if that safe comfort zone, that place where everyone is following the same standards, is actually a strategic dead end? What if the real risk isn't in being different, but in being interchangeable? Because when you're interchangeable, you're a commodity. And in a commodity market, there's only one way to compete: on price. That's a downward spiral that just crushes your margins, kills innovation, and turns the brand you've worked so hard to build into just another line item on a spreadsheet, totally indistinguishable from the rest.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll dive into the great invisibility trap. Then, I'll show you your differentiation blueprint. We'll explore the psychology of distinction, figure out how to master your mutation, and finally, wrap it all up with the structurally unique advantage.
Okay, let's start with the problem, the one that most brands are facing, whether they know it or not. We are living in an age of hyper-commoditization. I mean, think about it. With global supply chains and easy access to technology, almost any product or service has dozens, if not hundreds, of nearly identical competitors just a click away. And that, right there, is the great invisibility trap.
And the engine that drives this whole trap is something called competitive mimicry. It comes from a totally rational but ultimately fatal instinct. A company sees the market leader and thinks, hey, they're successful, so what they're doing must be right. So they copy the website layout, the pricing model, the features, even the color blue that everyone seems to use. And why not? It feels safe, it's easy to justify to your board. We're just following proven industry best practices. But the result is this huge sea of sameness. To a customer, all these brands just blur together. And when there's no real difference between your options, what do? You default to the easiest metric: price. That's what kicks off the race to the bottom, and it makes it impossible to build any real, lasting brand value.
This chart just lays the stakes out perfectly. On the left, you've got the safety trap. It feels low risk because, hey, you're not rocking the boat. But that feeling of safety is a total illusion. It guarantees you'll be neurologically invisible, and it forces you into these brutal price wars that turn your brand into a disposable commodity. Now, on the right, you have strategic divergence. This feels high risk because it's contrarian. It takes guts. But by breaking those unwritten rules, you become neurologically memorable. You literally hijack the brain's attention system, and that lets you shift the entire conversation away from how much does it cost to what is the value you provide. The end result isn't just a slightly better product, it's creating what we call a category of one, a space in the market where you are the only logical choice.
So, if mimicry is the disease, what's the cure? Well, this brings us to the solution, your differentiation blueprint. And I really want to stress this. This is not about some random act of creativity or a flash of marketing genius. This is about architectural design. It's about engineering a unique identity using a very specific, repeatable system.
And at the core of this blueprint is the Strategic Divergence Filter. Now, the keywords here are system, hard coding, and structural mutation. This is not about a new tagline or a clever ad. That's all just surface level stuff. This is a deep operational change. To hard code something means you're embedding it into the very source code of your business, your product, your operations, your hiring, and the structural mutation is a deliberate, radical change to your brand's DNA. It's designed for one purpose, to make it impossible for a customer's brain to lump you in with everybody else. It's how you bypass that automatic sameness filter we all have.
So how does this actually work? Well, it happens in 3 stages. First up is standard mapping. This is where you basically become an anthropologist of your own industry. You document all the clichés, the so-called best practices, all the unwritten rules that everyone just follows. What color are most logos? What's the standard pricing model? This becomes your sameness map. Second, and this is the really daring step, is the polar opposite mutation. You don't just tweak a standard, you pick one core convention from your map and you deliberately move in the exact opposite direction. Then third, and this part is absolutely non-negotiable, is structural integration. The mutation can't just be a marketing slogan, it has to be an operational truth. You have to hard-code it into the very fabric of your business, your product, your pricing, your customer experience. It has to be real.
And this makes it really clear how it works in the real world. You know, in the SaaS world, the standard is a free trial and charging per user. The mutation? No free trial, which signals huge confidence in your product's value, and usage-based pricing. In consulting, the cliché is billing by the hour with these massive, complex proposals. The polar opposite? Simple, flat-rate projects with a one-page proposal. It shifts the focus from hours worked to outcomes delivered. Or think about a coffee shop. The standard is fast service, a huge menu, and Wi-Fi. The mutation? A slow bar, focused on the craft, a tiny curated menu, and absolutely no Wi-Fi. See, each mutation isn't just a gimmick. It tells a story, and it attracts a very specific type of customer who really values what you've chosen to be excellent at.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the how. But now, let's get into the why. Why is this approach so incredibly effective? The answer isn't in some business textbook. It's in the fundamental wiring of the human brain. This strategy isn't really about outsmarting your competitors. It's about aligning with how people are naturally built to see, remember, and assign value. The main principle at work here is called the von Restorff effect, or the Distinctiveness Effect, and it's a simple neurological truth. Our brains are hardwired to notice and remember things that are different. If you see a whole field of white sheep and one of them is purple, your attention is immediately captured. But that purple sheep isn't just noticed, it's remembered. It gets its own special file in your brain. By intentionally breaking a core industry standard, your brand becomes that purple sheep. You force the brain to stop its automatic filtering, to pay attention, and to create a brand new mental category just for you. You're no longer just another CRM software, you are the simple CRM that does less. That distinctiveness becomes a powerful memory anchor. But here's the thing. Triggering this effect requires a conscious and often pretty difficult choice. You have to embrace a core principle of strategy, which is that you simply cannot be all things to all people. Real strategy is about what you choose not to do. So to be truly known for something great, you have to be willing to intentionally fail at something else. This is the law of sacrifice. And let's be clear, this isn't about accidental failure, it is a strategic trade-off. That coffee shop without Wi-Fi is strategically failing at being a co-working space so it can succeed at being a place for great conversation and craft coffee. The software with half the features is failing at being an all-in-one solution so it can succeed at being the simplest, fastest tool for one specific job. This deliberate trade-off is what gives your distinction its power and its credibility.
And this is what creates a true competitive moat around your business. This quote just nails it. Think about it. Any of your competitors can add a feature. That's easy. But can they remove half of their features? Can they fire the customers who rely on that complexity? Almost never. They're trapped by their own success, by their commitment to the industry standard. Your willingness to make that sacrifice, to accept a strategic failure, is what protects your success. It's what makes your unique position defensible and uncopyable, because your competitors are simply organizationally incapable of making the same trade-off.
Okay, so we've covered the theory and the psychology. Now, let's get practical. Let's translate this into a concrete path you can actually follow. How do you apply this thinking to your own brand, starting right now? Well, it begins with a very direct and honest question. I want you to think about this seriously. If you took your company's website, your product description, your sales pitch, and you swapped your logo with your closest competitor's logo, would anyone even notice? Would the promises you make still make sense? Would the tone of voice still feel right? If the answer is yes, or even maybe, then you are failing the interchangeability test. You are vulnerable. You're operating deep inside that safety trap, whether you realize it or not.
So here's your action plan. It's called the Sameness Audit. First, identify the clichés. Get your team together and just list everything that's considered standard in your space. Be ruthless about it. Next, choose your trade-off. This is the moment of truth. Looking at that list of clichés, which one are you brave enough to reject? What will you sacrifice in order to be truly exceptional at something else? Third, hard code the mutation. This is the hardest part. You have to map out exactly how this one decision ripples through your entire business. How does it change the product roadmap, the sales script, customer support. And finally, come back to that test. Constantly test for interchangeability, and don't stop refining your mutation until the answer to that question is a definitive no.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground, from the neurological traps that make us invisible to the blueprint for building distinction. So let's bring it all home with the single most important idea from this entire explainer. This is the final takeaway, the big reversal of conventional wisdom. In a crowded market, blending in is a death sentence. The truly risky move, the one that guarantees you'll become an invisible commodity, is to play it safe. Your survival, and eventually your dominance, depends entirely on your courage to diverge, to mutate, and to become structurally and fundamentally different.
And really, this is the ultimate goal. When you hard-code your mutation and you create a brand that's a true category of one, you totally change your relationship with the market. You stop having to shout for attention. You stop needing to spend more and more money pushing people through some complicated funnel. Instead, your structural uniqueness becomes like a gravitational force. It pulls the right customers towards you, customers who appreciate your trade-offs, who celebrate your focus, and who see you as the only solution for them. That is the power and the enduring advantage of differentiation DNA.